Hello and welcome to On a Mission, the show where we share inspiring conversations with phenomenal women who are creating success and prosperity in their lives with purpose and passion. I'm Pauline Rohdich, a success mindset coach and clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm on a personal mission to remind you that you are a beautiful soul and you have so much potential. And my intention for this show is to give you the nudge to answer your own calling and to rise up and take on your life's mission. So hello again, everybody. And this episode of On a Mission is with the gorgeous Niki Bowman, who hails from South Africa, happens to live not too far away from me. And we met about a year and a half ago, pre-COVID, at the yoga classes that I used to facilitate. So Niki, it's wonderful that you're here. And Niki has a wonderful business called Simplify and Sort. She is a decluttering expert. And I had the pleasure of having Niki run a workshop recently with my clients. They all thought it was amazing. She's a wonderful deliverer of information, and she's running a challenge next week, but I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit more about that. So at the time of this recording, today, it's the 16th of June, 2021. So just to keep that right. Niki, you're so welcome. It's great to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Sun is shining, can't complain.
No, absolutely. Reminding you, as we were having a lovely little chat before we came on live, and we were chatting about South Africa. I used to import candles, as I said, from Johannesburg many moons ago. So we're just catching up on location. So Niki, you come from Johannesburg originally, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
You want to just share life in South Africa and now life in Ireland and how that all took place and what has inspired your business, etc. I'd love to hear about that. I'm sure our listeners would too.
Yes. So we've been living in Ireland now for about 2.5 years. Absolutely loving it. So I think a lot of people, if anyone's been to South Africa or read about South Africa, will know that South Africa has struggles with crime and its economy and those sorts of things. I mean, a beautiful country, loads of lovely places to visit, but we really moved for the long-term sort of safety of our family and for kind of better prospects for our kids to grow up in a safer, more secure environment. So when we moved to Ireland, we'd actually never been to Ireland. We'd never visited. We didn't know a single person. It was really just taking a very big leap of faith. But our kids were sort of, I think they were 5 and 7, around that age at the time when we moved, and we kind of thought it was now or never, let's move while they are young enough. So the thing about my husband and I and my parents actually moved with us, so it was
that makes a big difference.
It does. It was the 6 of us that moved. I think we were sitting around having dinner one night and we kind of just started having the discussion, and that was in the September. And by February the following year, we packed up all of our houses, sold everything and moved. So we're not the type to think on things. No, well, we're very impatient. So once we kind of made the decision to move, we really wanted to move. And I think a big part is I've kind of been on this journey to simplify for the last sort of 5 years. It started with physical stuff in my home, but then definitely went on to other areas. So I'm all about simplifying how I spend my time, who I spend my time with, what I do. And it just really appealed to me to live a little bit more simply out in the countryside in Ireland. So that's it. We moved 2.5 years ago. Yes, I do miss the sunshine, sometimes, but overall very happy in Ireland, love living here. In South Africa, I was actually in HR. I had my own business there for 8 years. And I was working as an HR consultant for small businesses who didn't have HR. But I think, for quite a long time, I almost always felt like I should be doing something else, So I'm like a serial entrepreneur. I'm forever starting little businesses. So for 8 years, I stuck with the HR consulting. That was always like even though it was a consulting business, it was like my day job kind of thing. But then I think I was always looking for something a little bit more creative on the side. So I started activity classes for kids. Then I did baking. So I love to bake, and I had a little baking business. Then I started doing kids baking classes. And I think I always had something little on the side that I wanted to do. But I something a bit more creative. But I think everything I tried, I knew it wasn't the right thing.
Right. Yes,
those things came and went. And then when we moved, there's something about an international move that I really think makes you brave. And I don't know if you experienced that with your move to Australia and then back. And but there's something about it that makes you almost realize things are not so permanent.
Yes.
And that you're much braver than you think you are.
No, I'm really glad that you're saying that, to be honest, because my own experience, definitely it takes some courage. It was a leap of faith. Yeah. Unlike yourself, we didn't take family with us, and that might have made the world of difference, actually, because my heart was very much at home with my parents, and I think if they'd been with us, it would have been a whole different experience. But you think you might have made it work, and I often think, and I now know that, my heart was back home. It was as simple as that, and my heart won out completely. But I admire you. I think it's fantastic. And I like the fact that you talk about decision. Believe it or not, I'm in the middle of doing a boot camp this week, and tomorrow we're talking about decision. And, one thing about being a quick decision maker, it's actually a sign of somebody who is successful. Successful people actually make their decisions really fast, and they rarely change their mind, if at all. So, well done on that. It just proves that, you are that successful person, and you're making a success of things here, which is actually amazing. So then, obviously, with all the various different experiences you've had in business, you eventually obviously stumbled upon, the simplify and sort business has really been a reflection of what you wanted to achieve in your life.
Yeah, I think, it's funny, since I was a young kid, my family have always said I'm not like the rest of my family. Like, they tend to be quite messy, and, my family have always called me Martha Stewart because I've loved keeping a nice home and things like that. So if I look back, it's kind of always been my personality. Yes. And when we moved, I felt braver, and I knew I wanted to do something different. I thought, HR legislation is a little bit different here. And when we first arrived here, I took an HR job and I went back to corporate full-time work, which was a huge adjustment for me after 8 years being home with my kids, setting my own hours. Going back to working for someone did not do me or my family well. No. And I did that for 9 months, because you do what you have to do. Yes. But I think that I kind of, I was at that stage where it was like, I've got this completely fresh start, new country. Why not be really big and brave and do something else? And, in South Africa, I had started a Facebook page and a blog, a little bit about simple living and decluttering and the benefits of it. And, I really wanted other people to benefit the way I had. And so when we moved, I just thought, this is the perfect opportunity. So I found a lady in Ireland, actually. I did the course online. She's got a Declutter Academy where she basically helps you to set up a decluttering and organizing business, and you can become a certified professional. And so that's what I did, and that's kind of how I got to where I am.
It's fantastic. And, it's amazing that you can make a business out of helping people to declutter. I remember when I lived in Australia, there was a lady from New Zealand that I became quite friendly with. And she had done that when she lived in Australia. She was living in Australia, obviously, for quite a while. But when she was at home in New Zealand, she had started a decluttering business. And I'd never even heard the concept of it certainly being a business. I'm aware of the decluttering. You might look behind me and think I'm very disorganized, but actually I've been called, what's her name from, you're Martha Stewart, but I used to get Monica from Friends, always kind of picking up, tidying and straightening things out. But I've definitely got much more relaxed in my life. Because that can be a little bit too OTT, yes, as well. I think there's a nice balance we have to have.
Find the middle ground.
The middle ground, But I'd love you to share, because you mentioned it when you did the workshop with us there recently, about how the decluttering has impacted your health and your husband as well. I'm sure people would love to know that it's so much more than just tidying a drawer or straightening out.
Yeah. It is. I think a lot of times people think like kind of dismiss decluttering,
yes.
Because it's almost like, oh, well, it's just about having a tidier home, or, kind of showing off your home, or things like that. I've always liked things nice and tidy. And so I never had like overly visible clutter. People could come to our house, it wasn't messy or anything like that, but it took a huge amount of energy to focus on keeping it that way, because I think a lot of the time the focus is on organization. So there's plenty of professional organizers out there, and I don't refer to myself as a professional organizer. I'm a decluttering and organizing professional, because I think often the focus is too much on organizing and not enough of the letting go of the excess.
That's a very distinct difference, actually, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we think we've got loads of useful stuff, and so we just need to organize it better, instead of going, well, what don't we use, and let's let go of it, because then it naturally stays more organized. So I was spending a lot of time organizing. In fact, the thought never even crossed my mind that the stuff I had we weren't using and I should get rid of it. And over the course of 9 months, we simplified. So we really did. We got rid of everything that we didn't use, love, and need. And then what really started as a physical journey to get rid of physical clutter and make more space and time, ended up kind of giving us the headspace to tackle other things. So my husband and I lost a combined 80 pounds of excess weight. We cleared all of our debt, which we'd been trying to do for ages and failing at, and have been debt-free for the last 3 years. We started simplifying everything. So like how we spend our time, relationships that weren't working for us anymore, what the focus is with our kids. So we are very much focused now on experiences and memories, rather than hitting the toy store to buy a new toy, or, those sorts of things. So, it had a huge impact on, it didn't just change that, oh, now I don't have to clean so much and the house is a bit tidier. It really had an impact on, overall well-being, and just that headspace to tackle things. Like once all that like claustrophobic energy of stuff that you don't even realize is there was gone, and I can literally, if I go back and track the dates, the year after we decluttered, we lost 80 pounds of weight. The year after that, we settled all our debt. The year after that, we moved to Ireland. The year after that, I started my business. Like, it was every year we set another goal and we tackled it. And I truly believe when you don't have the physical clutter, you can start tackling the other stuff.
Well, absolutely. They say that it's reflected in your mindset and how you do things, But I know people that are listening to this are they will be very cross with me if I don't zoom in on one thing that you've said. So please forgive me. I know this is your interview, but because I'm always paying attention to what people say, words losing weight. Not a good idea to say I've lost, X amount of pounds, only because the mind is always going to look for something that we've lost.
Oh, okay, interesting.
We associate pain with losing something.
Yes.
So I just wanted to add that in there, because I know anybody that's listening to this, they know I'll always jump in on that very thing when people
say don't.
Yeah. So released weight or shed weight, but the word loss, it's incredible, because the mind is always thinking in pictures.
It needs to go find it.
Absolutely. But I want you to go back to just to highlight, if you don't mind, and spotlight the other words that you did use that I think people will really get value out of. So what's the criteria as well, just when we're actually looking at stuff, right? Do I love it? Do I need
it, use it, or need it? So those are the criteria I use, because often people are applying the criteria of, is it still in good condition? Might I use it? Is it expensive? Is it still in good condition? Those things are not criteria for me. The criteria is 3 simple things. Do I love it? Do I use it? And do I need it? And if it doesn't fit those categories.
Yeah. Well, I remember listening to an interview many years ago with the Dalai Lama. And he was talking about, I suppose, simplifying life as he would with his tradition and all the rest. But I remember he says, if I was to go into a big department store with all the bright lights and all the beautiful colored things and all the bright shiny objects, I would be tempted, he said, to want to buy, because of course marketing people and advertisers are doing a phenomenal job at enticing us. That's what they do. And so he said, the one question you ask yourself before you spend, do I need it?
Yeah.
And I must admit, I have used that. Do I need it? I often ask myself that question, and I'm delighted to say a lot of the time the answer is no, I don't need it. But however, do I want it is a different thing.
Yes.
And, you know, I mean, look, we're adults, and hopefully it's great to have the education from someone like yourself, you know, to determine it. But you know, there's nothing wrong with wanting things either, because I'm in the business of helping people to get what they want. But you know,
and you know what, I'm not about being minimalist and saying, oh well, you can only have so many items. But I think what often happens is we are in this habit of just sort of unconsciously collecting.
Yes.
We are just, you know, there's loads of marketing out there, and there's loads of you know, like messaging about how more stuff is going to make you happier. Sure. And I think that it's not about how much you have, it's just about being a conscious curator of the stuff you have in your home. Yes. So absolutely, if you love handbags and you want to collect handbags, have 100 of them, you know, that's fine. But I think that when you have stuff that is just not being used and it's just stored away somewhere and you're not enjoying it, then there's no point in having that.
Collecting dust, yeah. And I think, you know, especially when it comes to clothes as well, you know, I mean, maybe sometimes especially after COVID, a lot of people think, oh my God, I don't fit into that now, but I will, and I'm aiming to. What would you say to the women that are just looking at their wardrobes? Have you got some tips around clothes?
So that's one of the common questions I get asked about is what do I do? And an interesting little fact is that most of us are only wearing about 20 to 30% of our wardrobes 80 to 90% of the time. So what I would say is that probably that stuff that doesn't fit you now that you're hoping to get back into was probably stuff you didn't even wear when you did fit into it.
I know.
So I would say really be brutal. And I'm a big fan of deciding how much of everything you need before you start decluttering. So often the approach is just to go through your wardrobe and take things out and go, oh, well, is it still in good condition? You know, could I fit into it? I'll keep it. I like to flip it around and do it the other way. So sit down and write a list. What do you actually need? So what's my lifestyle? What's the weather like where I live? Those sorts of things. And then write a list. You know, I need this many pairs of trousers, this many dresses, this many shirts, this is how much summer stuff, winter stuff, etc. And then go with your list to your wardrobe, pick the items that are your favorite in best condition that meet those requirements, and let go of the rest. I would say if you're not fitting into stuff, by all means keep some of that stuff, but again, I would say be quite critical of what you keep, you know, really think about, be honest with yourself. Are you ever going to fit back into that? It's also okay to go, well, you know what, my body's changed.
Yeah.
It's okay to let go of it. You know, be honest with yourself, and then really only just keep key kind of pieces that you know if you fit back into them, you will definitely wear. Don't keep things just because I think a lot of times with wardrobes, we're quite aspirational. Absolutely. And so we keep stuff, you know.
Just for the sake of it. And I mean, I heard once upon a time, if you haven't worn something for 3 years, I think it was, then the likelihood of you ever wearing it is remote. Yeah, but that's good. The stats, 20 to 30%, I would agree with that. 80, 90% of the time, I would totally agree with that. I'm definitely getting into the cupboards this weekend, most definitely. And I love, to be honest, I actually would do it maybe twice a year anyway. I mean, I like to move stuff on, and certainly my son, I've only got the one child, so I don't have anybody directly coming behind him to hand something down to. It definitely goes to charity shops. It sometimes goes to some of his friends that are smaller than him.
Yes.
And often, you know, they've hardly even been worn. So you're giving away really good stuff, and it's a shame to not pass it on. You know, I certainly wouldn't put anything in the bin unless it wasn't in good condition.
Rather let somebody else get some value and some use out of something. You know, I hate things going to waste. So I think when you know it's going to someone else, you can really use it and benefit from it.
Yeah, and you know, I wonder, like, it's very obvious that you're passionate about this, okay? But do you feel, I mean, it's a question I ask a lot of guests on this show, because it's all about being on a mission. Do you feel that you're on a mission and that there's a bigger thing going on behind Simplify and Sort?
Yes, definitely. So like I do, I've actually kind of used this statement before of like, I'm on a mission to sort homes, you know, one household at a time.
Yeah.
So I definitely do feel like I am, you know, it's not just about the tidy homes. You know what I mean? I'm not providing a cleaning service. So it's not just about cleaning a home. I'm really trying to get to that bigger thing of creating homes where women do not feel so exhausted. It's the number one thing I get is, you know, all of my clients are pretty much women who are sick of the mess, sick of the anxiety, the stress. And interestingly, they did studies on the impact of clutter, and it raises your cortisol level, so your stress hormone levels. And interestingly enough, it actually affects women far worse than it does men. So it's no wonder.
Don't we know it?
So it's no wonder that it's the woman coming to me saying, oh, I can't deal with this anymore. But that's what the bigger mission really is, to create happier homes where people want to live in the space, where they're spending more time with their families, they're making memories.
I know, but you've also got your own amazing story and great evidence of how it's impacted other areas of your life, you know, your health in particular. So who would you say would be 1, 2, or 3 most influential people in your life, and why?
So actually, I would say quite close to home, actually. So 2, probably the people who are quite influential would be my parents. So my dad had his own business for a very long time, and I think I always wanted that flexibility, you know, to kind of decide when I worked, how I worked, that sort of thing. And my mom was the same. So she often ran smaller creative businesses where she could be home with us and work odd hours and things like that. And then probably the third person would be my husband, because he's always kind of supported these crazy ideas. No matter what business I came to him with to say, oh, you know what I'm going to do next, it was always like, yes, go on, let's do it. You know, there was never ever a time where he would say, oh, that's a bit risky, don't you think you should stick with the secure job, the secure job, or the secure pension, or whatever, you know. So I think that's kind of been quite a big influence. I think it can be really hard for women if you're married and you're trying to do something different and you already yourself are a little bit scared to do it. And if your partner,
the support, it's wonderful.
Yeah. And if your partner just has a little bit of doubt, it can really, you know, sway you into thinking, oh,
well, I'm in the business of helping people not to allow that doubt in, just to go gung-ho at it regardless, because we if we're waiting for other people to support us, sometimes we could be waiting forever. So I mean, it's great when we have the support, but I think we have to learn to do things in spite of it, you know, if we don't actually have it. So what would you say perhaps maybe on this journey has been the biggest mistake, and what did you learn from it?
I think that probably one of the biggest mistakes is sort of in my business now is probably like jumping around a little bit too much, not kind of focusing and sticking with one thing at a time. So I think as humans, it's kind of human nature to always be like chasing the next shiny thing, you know? And I think that sometimes a lot of the time I've not, along the whole journey of starting various businesses, is that I've not always necessarily given things enough time to really come to fruition, you know? And I'm learning that now with this business, really just sticking with things and polishing it and, you know, sticking with it.
I honestly hear you, and I can definitely echo that, because it's about really, sometimes we go really wide thinking we need all these other, strings to our bow. But eventually you have to drill down and go deeper with what we're doing. So I think that's what you're describing. I'm exactly in the same boat myself, but it takes time sometimes. Would you agree? It takes a while
It does.
for us to get some kind of feedback and encouragement, if we like, that what we're doing matters.
Yes.
And it's about fulfillment, isn't it, really?
It is. And I think a lot of times, I think if you're quite a creative person, you can also start going off on a tangent. So, I've always had the HR business, and then I've always had like something creative as an outlet. And I think that we come up with loads of ideas when you're a bit creative, and you think you have to follow all of those ideas. And I'm just starting to realize, like, it's okay to write the idea down, and maybe I'll come back to it at a later stage. But for now, I tend to get a lot of enjoyment out of this new thing I'm creating. And then I get a little bit bored with the proofreading and the polishing and that sort of thing.
Yes.
I'm learning to sit in that uncomfortable place where I don't necessarily want to polish it and edit it. And, I don't want to say perfect it, because I don't like the word perfect, but, improve it. But I'm actually enjoying it. I find once you push through and you keep kind of trying to improve it, you actually start enjoying it.
I think as well that we're always going to be, we have a choice, of course, always, but I think choosing to continuously learn and grow as individuals, as people first and foremost, then whether we're business people, entrepreneurs, or otherwise, is important. And part of that growth would be to recognize that, to ask the deeper meaning questions. Is what I'm doing having an impact? Is it filling me up? Is it bringing me joy? Is it making a difference in somebody else's lives? At least that's the kind of questioning that I would have personally. Do you feel that you think similarly?
Yes, definitely. And I think, like you say, the more you start getting those, it takes time to get that feedback. And once you start getting it, my membership program has been going for nearly a year now. And the feedback I am getting now about, from ladies who are saying, like, this has changed my life, then you start really thinking, like, no, I'm on the right track. I've got to stick with this, because you start getting that feedback. In the beginning, you're almost shooting a little bit in the dark and going, I don't know, is this helping people? Is it the package, the way they want it, or whatever. Once you start getting that feedback, then definitely, and that definitely drives me to go, well, is it helping people? Is it, am I enjoying it?
Absolutely. And I think these are questions that we do have to ask. So I'm just curious to know, I'm all about, living out our life purpose and helping people to reach their potential and recognize, that when we do come from that place within us where we feel guided or led. Do you have a belief around that? Do you believe in kind of a higher intelligence or soul?
Yes, I definitely do. So, I'm not an overly religious person, but I definitely believe there's some sort of a higher power. I have to believe we are part of something bigger than just our individual self. So I definitely think there is. And I think that, I think that often we can be guided, sometimes ideas just come out of nowhere. You feel that nudge of, oh, that's the next step I need to take, or, that's the thing I need to do. So I definitely do think there's some.
And when would you feel that connection most?
I'd probably say when I'm walking in the woods, when you're in nature and it's quiet and you're switched off from your phone and the birds are tweeting, and, that would definitely be when there's that, you feel connected to something bigger, I think, especially when you're out in nature.
Absolutely. And look, just for the record, I really don't associate religion either with that particular question or that line of questioning. It's just this kind of invisible power energy is really what I'm always talking about. And we share the same woods. So yes. I also feel that when I'm in the woods, I have to say, or really anywhere in nature, it's just absolutely amazing. So what advice would you give your younger self, Niki?
If I could go back and give myself advice, it would probably be that you're enough. I think a lot of times we hold ourselves back because we are scared we aren't good enough. We need another qualification. We need more experience. We need something else. We're waiting for perfect. And I think if I could go back and kind of say, well, you're ready now. You're enough now, you know.
Do it. Just do it anyway.
You don't have to, everyone started somewhere, you know. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to, you know, emulate someone else. You can be who you are. There are plenty of people out there who need your story, your message, your service. You don't have to please all of the people, you know.
Fantastic. I love it. And really and truly, I think people that are just as advanced as you are in your business would actually agree with that. I mean, it's just, we that's what holds most people back, is that the idea that they're not good enough. So are you reading a book at the moment that you want to share with us?
Yes, I'm actually reading 2 books at the moment. The first is The 5 Love Languages of Children, which I'm absolutely loving and changed the way I'm dealing with my kids. And the second book I'm reading is the Chillpreneur book from Denise Thomas. And it's all about being a little bit more relaxed in the way you approach business. And, you know, I think sometimes we can overcomplicate things and burn ourselves out. So I'm halfway, I've listened to the audiobook before. Now I'm actually reading the hard copy, and I'm really enjoying it.
I know who you mean. She's a blonde lady. Is she Australian or is she American? I can't remember.
She's Australian, so she does a lot of work around money mindset and things like that. Yeah. But her Chillpreneur book is all about sort of being an entrepreneur and how to kind of do it a little bit more calmly.
Fantastic. And well, she's learned the hard way. Do you have a favorite quote, and why?
Yes, so my quote or my saying would be the quote that I actually used in the training with you on Saturday, which is progress over perfection. And I use it everywhere. So I use it when I'm teaching my clients. It's all about progress. Stop worrying about the perfection. I use it in my own life. You know, often I think we can procrastinate. You know, at the moment I'm busy recording videos for my membership program, and I think we can wait to do it until we've polished the content a little bit more, or we've had our hair done, or we, you know, those sorts of things. And so I constantly just remind myself that it's about progress, and, you know, not waiting for, because perfect never arrives.
I agree. I totally agree. Just get started. And, you know, because there's always going to be change, and because that's the nature of life. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing. So what excites you, Niki, about yourself, your life, your business, the future?
I think what you're saying now about, you know, everything changes. I used to be quite a control freak, but since moving, I think I've learned that nothing is permanent. Right. And there's a little bit of freedom in that, I think, of kind of like, you know, nothing is set in stone. So I think it's exciting to kind of go, well, you know, where will life take you next? You know, it's okay to not control everything and know exactly how things are going to be, and to let go a little bit.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that's a wonderful sort of idea, and to leave everybody with that, you know, just to let go and to enjoy life a little bit more, and to tune in and listen to the guidance from within, and be guided. And, you know, you have lots of ideas and you're pursuing the one that you're currently doing. I get lots of ideas. Everybody does, but a lot of people don't run with their ideas. But I think if we can just encourage people to run with the idea that they have most, where they can use their gifts and their talents and make a difference in the world. I think that is really where it's at for all of us. Absolutely. I want to thank you sincerely. Would you like just to mention about your challenge and the purpose behind it? It's happening next week, isn't it, on Monday?
Yes. So next week, Monday to Friday, I've got a 5-day challenge coming up. It's called Conquer Your Clutter. So over 5 days, I'll be kind of teaching the 5 steps that I believe you need to follow if you want to conquer your clutter once and for all and stop moving it around the house. So that'll be Monday to Friday with live daily training.
Wonderful. So we will add the link to this when it goes up there on YouTube and on the podcast.
Fantastic.
Niki, look, it's a pleasure. Absolutely. Wonderful to see you
thriving
and doing such a great job and helping people to reorganize their lives and because it's so much more than, as you say, just decluttering. It's a phenomenal psychological benefit and emotional, etc. So it's great work. It's needed. And I wish you every success going forward. So I want to thank everybody as well. I want to thank everybody as well for tuning in and listening. And I hope you've enjoyed this interview with Niki. You can hear about her challenge in the link and just follow there. And I strongly encourage you to check her out. She's a brilliant teacher. She's fantastic at delivering it. She does keep it very simple and very doable. And the rest will be up to you. So thanks again for listening. If you'd like to be part of this show and share what you do with the world and your mission and your passion and your life experiences and your mistakes, get in touch and you might be on the next episode or one of the next episodes coming up. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this show so that you will be notified when the next episode is released. And remember, keep believing you're amazing and you have so much to give. Now is your time.